There is a peculiar irony that haunts history. Sometimes the most catastrophic disasters are not born from malice or ignorance alone. They are born from conviction, from the absolute certainty that we are doing the right thing. In medieval Europe, there existed a quiet confidence. The church had answered the great questions. God was in his heaven. Evil was not metaphorical. It was literal, tangible, and it walked on 4 legs in the shadows of your village. The cat, you see, had become a problem. Not because anyone feared cats would steal bread or ruin crops. No, the cat had become a symbol, a vessel. In the fever dreams of the faithful, the cat was a messenger of witchcraft, a creature born from the union of woman and demon. Black cats especially carried the weight of this suspicion, though eventually the color mattered less than the fear itself. This was not the paranoia of peasants alone. This belief had been sanctioned, nurtured, even encouraged by institutions of power. The church, seeking to consolidate control over a population desperately searching for explanations of suffering, had woven the cat into the narrative of evil. Kill the familiar of the witch, destroy the accomplice of darkness, save the village, save the soul. And so they did. Across the continent, a quiet extermination began. Not all at once. Revolutions of cruelty rarely announced themselves with trumpets. Rather, it accumulated. A cat burned in a village square, another drowned, another left to starve, then another and another, until in some regions, the cat had nearly vanished from the landscape entirely. The medieval world, gripped by theological certainty, had nearly erased a species from its lands. What happened next carries the weight of terrible irony. The rat, which had always lived alongside humans in the shadows and sewers, suddenly found itself without its greatest predator. The populations exploded. Where once a cat might have reduced rodent numbers through the simple act of survival, now the rodents bred with the freedom of the unchecked. They multiplied in the darkness of barns and granaries, in the walls of homes, in the spaces between the floorboards of cities. And they carried something. They carried it in their blood, in their fleas, in the invisible organisms that lived beneath their fur. They carried what would become known as the Black Death. No one understood the connection then. How could they? The microscopic was still invisible. The flea was unremarkable. The bacterium Yersinia pestis was merely a phantom, a killer without a name. People saw only death, endless, inexplicable, apocalyptic death. The plague consumed millions. In some estimates, it eliminated half the population of Europe. The irony was perfect. In their rush to destroy what they believed was evil, humanity had eliminated the creature that stood between them and actual catastrophe. The cat had been their guardian, and they had murdered it. When the plague finally receded, not because of cure or prayer, but simply because the rat populations eventually stabilized, the medieval world did not understand what had happened. There was no grand revelation, no moment where someone said, "Ah, we should not have killed the cats." History simply moved forward, as it always does, carrying its victims with it. The cats eventually returned. Humans learned to coexist with them again, though the memory of their supposed danger faded slowly. But something deeper remained, the pattern itself. It is this pattern that should unsettle us. We kill what we fear, we destroy what we don't understand, and most dangerous of all, we do it with conviction. We do it believing ourselves righteous. The medieval peasant, burning a cat in the village square, did not see himself as a harbinger of plague. He saw himself as a protector, a guardian, a pious servant of good. The question that history whispers, but we are too comfortable to hear, is simple. What are we burning now? What creatures, literal or metaphorical, are we destroying in our certainty? And what invisible consequences are we setting in motion? The irony of the cats was that it was verifiable, undeniable, tragic. We can look back and see exactly where the logic broke. But for every historical irony we can see, there are surely others unfolding invisibly in our own time. Patterns we cannot yet perceive because we are too close, too certain, too convinced of our own righteousness. The medieval world did not know it was destroying its own salvation, and therein lies the true horror, not of the plague itself, but of the machinery of human conviction that set it in motion. We remain, even now, creatures who are capable of the same certainty, the same conviction, the same terrible capacity for irony. All it takes is something we are afraid of, something we do not fully understand, and the absolute certainty that we are doing what is right